We're back with another discussion video on the subject local and regional governance. We are now on our second topic, which is about the history and evolution of Philippine local government and administration. So sit back, enjoy, and learn. Before we begin, let us ponder on this quote from our national hero, Jose Rizal. He said that Filipinos don't realize that victory is the child of struggle, that joy blossoms from suffering, and redemption is a product of sacrifice. This discussion video will follow the following outline. So we will begin with the Philippine local government and administration side. It is followed by the organization of the barangay. Afterwards, we'll go to the colonialization and centralization. It is then followed by local government during the American occupation. And then we have local government in the post-war era, which is then followed by the local government under martial law. And lastly, we'll tackle the EDSA people power. This is the Philippine local government and administration timeline. It started in 1898 during the installation of the first Philippine Republic. So during this time was the first attempt to decentralize local governments. So the central government reorganized and Philippinized the provinces and municipalities and provided for a system of indirect elections. Next was the installation of the Malolos Constitution on 1899. The said constitution provided the most ample decentralization and administrative authority for local governments, popular and direct election of local officials, and provincial and municipal taxes. This was followed by the American period during 1902 to 1935. During this time, the municipal, city, and provincial governments were modified, and although they publicly pursued the granting of autonomy, the tradition of centralism was not radically changed. The Commonwealth period followed. This was from 1935 to 1945. The 1995 Constitution provided for the general supervision of local governments by the President. The centralist trend continued, largely due to the strong leadership of then President Quezon. A decentralization trend occurred from 1946 to 1972. So specifically in 1950, President Quirino created the moderately successful National Planning Commission, which was tasked to prepare regional plans, integrate, coordinate the various plans of regional urban areas. What followed was the martial law period under President Marcos. In 1972, he adopted the Integrated Reorganization Plan, which redivided the country into 11 regions. Further operationalized the delegation of authority to the regional levels. He created the Regional Development Councils, decentralized the planning process, as well as the integrated area development approach was adopted. Next was the promulgation of Batas Pabansa 337 or the Local Government Code in 1983. This code emphasized the corporate personality of local governments while retaining the basic structure of the mayor-council type. And then, the promulgation of the 1987 Constitution under President Corazon Aquino. So the said Constitution devotes an entire article on local governments, which includes the following provisions. We have the territorial and political subdivisions shall enjoy local autonomy. Congress shall enact a local government code which shall provide for a more responsive and accountable local government structure instituted through a system of decentralization. We also have that each LGU shall have the power to create its own sources of revenue and to levy taxes, fees, and charges subject to such guidelines and limitations as the Congress may provide. And then, LGUs shall have a share as determined by law in the national taxes, which shall be automatically released to them. The basic socio-economic unit is called the barangay. So the barangay is headed by a datu. Its basis is the family. Also, it is considered as a state. So when we say that, it means that it has the elements of a state. First, it has the people, who are considered as part of the political body and recognize the authority. And then, established government, which is also exercised. Also, it has supreme authority or sovereignty over their constituents. And lastly, it has a definite territory. So in addition to this, barangays are aristocracy with monarchical tendencies. So when we say this, it means that it is headed by a relatively small privileged class consisting of people assumed to be best qualified for the position. And also, authority is vested by the datu, which is the monarch in this case. So in addition, in terms of socio-economic structure, barangay exemplifies a feudal system. So service or labor are devoted by tenants to their land owners. We now turn to colonialization and centralization. So on 1521, Magellan landed in the country, and it is during this time that Catholicism was introduced. Spaniards substituted barrios for barangays and appointed datus as cabeza de barangay. Manila was considered as the capital of the centralized government of colonials. Provincias or provinces, pueblos or municipalities, cabildos or cities, and barrios, converted barangays, were introduced. And then we have the Maura Law of 1893, which is about local autonomy. The lasting effects of Spanish dominion is the disintegration of indigenous communities and high degree of centralization. The brief period of Philippinization. The Declaration of Philippine Independence was on June 12, 1898. Mabini planned to prevent anarchy and acquire provincial support. The Malolos Constitution was instituted, which includes the creation of municipal assemblies. It also provided autonomy to local units with a certain degree of supervision. The American Occupation. In 1899, local governments were established for ease of administration. General Orders No. 43, series of 1899, provided for a municipal council in each town. Thus, it is considered as the first form of local government. During this time, there was an establishment of a police force, collection of taxes, enforcement of market regulations, sanitation, schools, and lighting facilities. In 1901, there was an organization of town officials that includes a secretary, a treasurer, and a chief of police. In the same year, there was an organization of provinces and designated officials such as governor, treasurer, and a supervisor of schools. Also, there was a maintenance of a system of hierarchy and centralization. We now turn to the post-war era. During this time, the 1935 Constitution was put in place. It states that presidential supervision over local governments is only as may be provided by law. While the President has the power of general supervision, Congress may determine the parameters of that supervision through legislation. During this time, we have a couple of measures from the Congress. We have RA 2259 or the Omnibus Law on Cities, RA 2370 or the Barrio Charter, RA 2264 or the Local Autonomy Act, and RA 5185 or the Decentralization Act. The extent of control and supervision by the President depended to a large extent upon the executive style and personality of whomever the President was. Supervision was also delegated to the Department of Interior. Upon its abolition, powers were assumed by the Office of Local Government and Civil Affairs under the Office of the President. And then came the local government under martial law. So during this time, there was an implementation of the Integrated Reorganizational Plan, which features the following: the regional delineation of 11 regions, where a regional center was located for each, to hold the deconcentrated agencies of the national government, and where regional development councils were designated, which included provincial governors and city mayors in their membership, and a Department of Local Government and Community Development, or the DLGCT, which put out together under one roof of the agencies having direct relationships with local government. So on September 21, 1972, President Marcos declared martial law. Afterwards, there was an establishment of the Department of Local Government and Community Development with the following functions. We have the President's delegated power of general supervision over local governments, the Bureau of Local Government, and then Community Development or the Bureau of Community Development, which had its organizational core the former President Assistant on Community Development. We also have Management of Cooperatives under the Bureau of Cooperatives Development. And lastly, the Training of Local Officials under the Bureau of Local Government. Next is special regions out of the Muslim areas of regions 9 and 12 were created. This followed by the enactment of Batas Pambansa 337 that includes presidential decrees affecting local government finance, such as PD 144 pertain to the sharing of internal revenue allotments, PD 231 of the local tax code enumerated the revenue raising powers and fund sources, which level of local autonomy, and next one is the PD 464, which is the decree on local fiscal administration. So these reforms provided rapid and confusing changes in the structures and powers of local governments. We now move forward with the EDSA People Power. During this time, there was the draft of the Freedom Constitution to serve as the basis of the government. And on October 10, 1991, Republic Act 7160 of the Local Government Code has been put into place. So the decentralization of functions includes the following: health, agriculture, social welfare, public works, environment, and natural resources. In addition, elections of local officials are stipulated to be in every 3 years. So that's the end of our discussion. We now turn to activity number 2. You are to make an essay on the following. First is the organization of Philippine local government system structure, and then on the appreciation to the efforts behind the attainment of local autonomy. Ponder and reflect on the discussion given in this topic before answering the activity. Please make your answers clear and compact. Good luck! You have finished topic 2. Should you have any questions, you can contact me through the following outlets. As we move forward with our module, I hope that you have learned a lot along the way. See you in our next discussion video. Thank you and God bless.